The worst case scenario is to see Iraq turning into a battleground. We certainly are aware of this risk, and this is one of the reasons why we have been putting a lot of efforts into not only maintaining our national security, but also reducing tension in the region and strengthening regional stability.
Iraq stands at the fault line of a widening regional war. Between US escalation, Iranian retaliation, militia attacks and pressure on Kurdistan, Baghdad is trying to prevent the country from being pulled into a direct confrontation. In this episode, I speak with Iraq's Deputy Foreign Minister, Hisham Al-Alawi, about sovereignty, militias, oil exports, negotiations with Iran, and the risk of Iraq becoming the next battlefield in the Middle East. Welcome to Focus Nahost. My name is Josephine Herrmann. The Middle East is entering a dangerous new phase. For more than a week, Israel and the United States have been carrying out strikes against Iranian targets. Iran has responded with missile and drone attacks on Israel and the Gulf states. After the killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, his son Mojtaba Khamenei has been named successor, a move that further escalates tensions. At the same time, Iran-aligned militias inside Iraq have launched attacks. US diplomatic facilities are under threat, and the Kurdish region has come under pressure. Oil exports through the Gulf are at risk. Energy markets are nervous. Negotiations between Washington and Tehran have collapsed. And Iraq is caught in the middle. Today I speak with Dr. Hisham Al-Alawi, Deputy Foreign Minister of Iraq and Undersecretary for Political Planning, a senior diplomat who has represented Iraq in South Africa, Turkey, and the Netherlands. He is now directly involved in navigating one of the most volatile moments in the region in years. We discuss sovereignty, militias, oil exports, Kurdish involvement, negotiations with Iran, and the risk of Iraq becoming a battleground in a widening regional war. Dr. Al-Alawi, Iraq today is caught between US military escalation, Iranian retaliation, attacks by Iran-aligned militias inside Iraq, and pressure on Kurdistan. What is Iraq's core priority in this moment?
Well, as you know, Iraq has spent a lot of time and efforts in not only improving the security environment in Iraq, but also strengthening regional stability. In the past decade, we have been talking to our neighbors as well as other countries beyond in Europe and the US about the importance of working together to end those wars and conflicts in the region that cost many lives and led to the rise of extremism and terrorism in the region. We also need to have regional stability if we are to succeed in implementing the important project, the Development Road, which is likely to transfer Iraq into an important trade and transportation hub, as well as act as a energy and telecommunications hub to link the countries in the region and countries in Southeast Asia to Europe. So maintaining regional stability is a high priority for the Iraqi government, in addition to obviously protecting our national security. So the recent escalation certainly represent a major threat to Iraq's national security, but also to the region's stability. And this is why we are concerned, and we've been trying in various ways to join efforts with other countries in the region and mediate between the two sides to prevent war in the first instance, and giving what happened now to end the war as soon as possible.
Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani stated that only the state decides on war and peace. At the same time, armed groups are launching attacks. How confident is the government that it can fully enforce its sovereignty across Iraqi territory at the moment?
The government, as you know, the Iraqi government, as you know, has been working on this. This issue in the past couple of years. It represents a high priority national issue, and the government has engaged with the political parties that are represented in the parliament, but also with the representatives of the armed groups. Those efforts have been also supported by the supreme religious leaders. Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani has also been calling for this to be completed as a national priority. The government has succeeded to a large extent in the past couple of years to control the activities of the armed groups, and that has worked relatively well. With the recent developments, it's been more challenging, obviously, to continue with the status quo. But so far, the situation is not out of control. The government is engaging with the relevant partners to ensure that the situation remains as calm as possible. It is also, as you know, a priority for the new government. One of the top priorities would be to continue those efforts, ensure that arms remain under the state's control, and no single armed groups behave in a way that could destabilize the situation and represent a threat to national security.
Prime Minister al-Sudani recently reaffirmed Iraq's solidarity with Iran and respect for its sovereignty as well. How does Iraq balance this position with its strategic partnership with the United States?
Well, the Iraqi government has made it clear that it is concerned that the recent attacks happened whilst the negotiations process between the two sides was ongoing, and there were clear positive signals coming out of the meetings. And this was made also clear by the foreign minister of Sultanate of Oman. As you know, he made it clear that the two sides were close to having a reasonable agreement on the table. And we were hoping that the technical teams representing the US and the Iranians will meet in Vienna to complete the discussions and move forward. The attacks by the US and the Israeli government complicated the matter. It is, as you know, it is much more difficult now to go back to where we were and have the confidence that the two sides needs to have in order to move forward. Nevertheless, we are engaging with our neighbors, including Oman. We are also engaging with other countries in EU and beyond that have an interest in pushing in this direction. We do hope that the necessary first steps will happen, and we could then encourage both partners to go back to the negotiation table as soon as possible, and hopefully continue the discussions that could lead to a reasonable agreement.
How realistic would you say are these negotiations?
It is much more difficult now, given what happened, not only because of the attacks, but also because of the assassination of the former Supreme Leader, Sayyid Ali Khamenei. It is clear that the Iranian officials, as well as the Iranian public, feel very angry because of what happened, and certainly this would have a negative impact on the possibility of succeeding in the negotiation process. Despite that, I think we all have to continue our efforts, because if we are to allow the current war to continue for weeks, this will have major, not just political and security implications, but also economic implications. The world energy market and security could be severely affected. We are concerned about our ability to export our crude oil via the Gulf because of the war. And we, as you know, we in Iraq, we rely heavily on the revenues we get from the export of crude oil. So far, the recent developments has significantly reduced the the amount of crude oil that we are able to export, and this certainly can, if it is going to continue, would have major negative impact on the Iraqi economy and the well-being of Iraqis.
There were discussions about a possible Kurdish ground offensive into Iran, even though US President Donald Trump has now rejected that option. How real was the risk of Iraqi territory being drawn into such a scenario, and can Baghdad prevent that?
Well, I mean, if we take into account the statements made by the Kurdish leaders, it is clear that they were aware of the risks associated with getting involved in any way. And certainly it is not in the interest of Iraqi Kurdistan, nor in the interest of Iraq and its relations with Iran. We certainly do not believe that having others involved in this way would be a good thing. It could have major negative consequences on Iraq's national security and our bilateral relations with Iran as well.
Iran-aligned militias have threatened US forces and diplomatic targets. Does Iraq see this as an internal security issue or part of a broader regional confrontation?
Well, we certainly do not want to see any attacks on diplomatic missions in Iraq and international organizations. We have suffered a lot when we had those incidents in the past. We are still suffering from the negative consequences on the attacks on the Swedish embassy, on the US embassy, and we certainly do not think that this would help in any way, in a positive way. So the government has this responsibility to ensure to prevent any future attacks on any of the diplomatic missions accredited in Iraq. We tried in various ways to reduce the risk, and the government has been successful in that. And we would certainly continue with those efforts to ensure that we do not see any future attacks on the diplomatic missions in Baghdad.
If escalation continues, what is the worst-case scenario for Iraq?
The worst-case scenario is to see Iraq turning into a battleground. We certainly are aware of this risk, and this is one of the reasons why we have been putting a lot of efforts into not only maintaining our national security, but also reducing tension in the region and strengthening regional stability. Countries and peoples in the region have paid a heavy price because of the conflicts that we've seen in Iraq and Syria and Yemen and Libya. And it would be certainly in the interest of all countries in the region and beyond to avoid further escalations and to work together to end those conflicts and wars. The negative consequences could also be far-reaching. It could also affect Europe, for example, if we are likely to continue with the war for too long. This could also have negative consequences in terms of immigration and movement of large number, potentially millions of people from the region towards Europe. Together with the rise of extremism and terrorism. So the sooner the war ends, the better for everyone, including countries in Europe.
Dr. Al-Alawi, what does Iraq want the international community to understand right now?
We certainly need to work together to encourage all partners to respect international law and to use diplomatic channels and negotiations to settle any differences we have. As far as the Iranian nuclear issue is concerned, I think we all know that an agreement is possible that would reassure us in the region and beyond that the program is peaceful and there are no intentions to develop a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb, and at the same time to give the Iranians hope that the existing sanctions will be eased and lifted, and they could develop their bilateral relations with the outside world in a normal way. Ultimately, countries in the region need to think about creating a broader umbrella to work together to strengthen regional stability as a prerequisite for more economic integration that would represent a win-win situation. This positive environment would also be a good thing for other countries beyond the region, because it will mean business and investment opportunities rather than deterioration of security and the potential for major immigration challenges.
Dr. Al-Alawi, thank you very much for your time.
You are welcome.
This was a new episode of Focus Nahost with Dr. Hisham Al-Alawi, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iraq for Political Planning. If you found this conversation valuable, please consider sharing it, subscribing to the podcast, and leaving a review. It helps ensure that more people can hear these perspectives from within the region. You can also read the full transcript of this interview in my Substack newsletter. Thank you for listening, and I speak to you soon.